Hello, my name is Alyssa Kearns, and we're talking about social emotional learning. The first thing I wanted to show was this quote that I found that says, "Every conflict presents you with a choice. You can choose to view conflict as an opportunity to teach or an opportunity to blame and punish." And this quote just kind of spoke to me because it shows how everyone, has a choice for behavior. You can choose to use those behaviors to create a teaching moment, to help with understanding how to manage the behavior and how to cope with the behavior, or you can, choose the opposite, which is to blame and to punish. And the main goal of SEL is to teach understanding and responsiveness to conflict. So I just thought that this was a good quote. And the quote is by Dr. Becky Bailey of Easy to Love and Difficult to Discipline. So we'll start out with what is social emotional learning. The definition, according to the Handbook of Social and Emotional Learning, it is defined as a process for helping children and even adults develop the fundamental skills for life effectiveness, including recognizing and managing emotions, developing caring and concern for others, and establishing positive relationships, making responsible decisions, and handling challenging situations constructively and ethically. This definition was constructed from theories of social, emotional, and cognitive development. And then schools that can then use this definition as a framework for implementing and designing programs for SEL. So the next couple of slides will go over the main principles of SEL according to CASEL, and CASEL stands for the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And then they have 5 guiding key principles to help with the implementation of SEL within schools. So the first key discipline or key principle is adopting whole child development. Whole child development means fostering every aspect of the child, from academic success to social and emotional learning and physical well-being. And it will provide success in school and work in the community. So the first one is including social and emotional learning in all areas of instruction, promoting it across the span of education, such as hiring staff or in budget areas. Involving an inclusive leadership team. Teams should be diverse and represented by all areas of gender, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Developing social and emotional leadership skills. Students should have the opportunity to practice and demonstrate these social and emotional skills in all different areas. Providing positive discipline policies that promote the growth of the student and not focusing on the negative. The climate and culture should be reciprocal between teacher and student, or teacher and or student and staff, teacher and parents, teacher and the communities. Next principle is commit to equity. So the building of SEL skills and an asset-based education should be available to all students, and it should build on their strengths of students, educators, families, and communities. So you should address the opportunity gap, like mentioned. It should be available for all students without bias. Educators should be representative and connected to the student body, and academic, social, and emotional outcomes to improve for students. Should be student and adult-led. Diverse amounts of students should have their voices heard when it comes to SEL implementation. And then healing informed, it should be able to provide the needs for students who have experienced trauma in all different kinds of areas. The third principle is to build capacity. It should promote belonging and build positive relationships among teachers and students, which is the foundation for social and emotional growth. It should have student and adult competencies, which are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, building relationship skills, responsible decision making. Developmental standards should be created for SEL instruction. There's schools in Illinois have standards already set in place for SEL. That might be a good thing to check out. Teachers and other individuals doing SEL should have pre-service training. There should be professional development provided for everyone involved. The fourth principle is partnering with families and communities. There should be family engagement. Families should be able to contribute to SEL. They should be able to help students at home and in the community. Expanded learning means it should span across all different areas of youth settings, such as after-school programs, before-school programs, summer programs, sports, as large as you can make it. Early learning is important. As soon as you can get these skills embedded in students is even better. As early as preschool is good. Community partnerships, using community-based organizations that can help provide and promote the different areas of SEL for schools and students as well. And then the fifth principle is learning and improving. So, you just continue to improve the practices that you're using, implementing plans and progress monitoring. Make sure you know where you need additional resources and support, and then measuring the different outcomes. Using the skills, comparing it to the climate, and then seeing the quality and the quantity of the opportunities for students. So those are the 5 key principles. Next, we'll move on to the effectiveness that it has in schools. This is a TED Talk that I watched that I thought was really interesting. In this TED Talk, she shines a light on the need for SEL implementation. She discusses about a grandfather whose wish is for his grandchildren to learn how to cope and to manage better in life, and not really focusing on the academics, although it's been shown that SEL does improve academics as well. She mentions research done by from Loyola University, where they reviewed over 213 studies of direct SEL instruction. And these studies showed that the students who participated in the direct instruction had an 11th percentile jump in their score on state standards, which just shows that direct instruction improves academic areas as well. Joseph Durlock, who's the author of the Handbook of Social and Emotional Learning, but he was also one of the leading researchers of that review done by Loyola University. And what he does is he takes this presentation of the results to schools that are wanting to implement an SEL program. And he shows them this with a value-added benefits approach, where it predicts how many more students would benefit from an SEL program. And in this chart, you can see that there would be, there's a 57% increase in the skills, 27% increase in academics, 62% positive social behavior, 24% learning how to deal with emotional distress and attitudes, and a 22% jump in learning how to deal with conduct problems, which is a great benefit for an SEL program. Then there's the ruler method. It was a model that was tested out and integrates teaching emotional skills into a whole for a whole school or a district. And it's based on emotional intelligence theory and theories of emotional development. And these theories help to form the need of SEL by showing that students who learn these skills had greater social competence and academic performance. Those who didn't were more likely to experience depression, anxiety, antisocial behaviors, and engaging in alcohol and substance abuse. The ruler method stands for recognizing emotion in self and others, understanding the causes and consequences of emotions, labeling emotions accurately, expressing emotions appropriately, and regulating your emotions effectively. The early tests done by this showed that students were not receiving sufficient instruction with this method, and therefore their skills were not able to develop fully. And then teachers also did not feel comfortable teaching or felt unprepared in teaching this. So they went back and they added new theories to this method, including the ecological systems theory, which takes into account the environment in which these skills are taught. And then this ruler method was reinforced or reintroduced by incorporating it into the academic curriculum and allowing teachers and staff and family and students to practice these skills in different areas. So it was noticed that the teachers who engaged the students about emotions and provided a healthy environment had the greatest response to SEL. It was the teachers who showed warmth and respect to their students and had a genuine interest in student needs that had the most interesting conversations about emotions. And then by creating an environment with a growth mindset, providing care and support, and making students feel empowered, the main components of the ruler method were being constructed. And then by incorporating all these and continuing to deliver it into classrooms, the outcomes of academic performance, relationship quality, and health and well-being continued to improve. And then a few other SEL strategies that have been proven to be effective. Joseph Zinn, who's the author of Building Academic Success on Social Emotional Learning, talks about these different instructional approaches and strategies to use to include and promote SEL in the classroom. He talks about using specific curricula that talks about substance abuse and bullying and learning how to build skills to help manage students who might be going through those types of things. He also talks about building specific skills such as setting goals and problem solving into the regular academic curriculum that then these can be transferred over to help with study behaviors and increasing academic engagement or using them in other areas. He talks about developing a supportive learning environment. So by creating a safe environment, it's important as well because students need to feel safe and cared for so they feel comfortable expressing themselves in the classroom. And then, proactive classroom management would fall under this as well. Altering the instructional process, by changing instruction can be useful, such as having students engage in cooperative learning, which helps build negotiation skills and conflict resolution because, they're having to take other people's thoughts and processes into account and not just their own. An informal curriculum, including, morning meetings or things learned in the lunchroom or on the playground. And then teachers can then, show and promote how to use positive behaviors in these different areas or things that might occur during these times and use it as a teaching moment for these students. Partnerships between parents and teachers, creating good social relationships between teachers and parents provides support. It helps provide support for students at home, and then that can be relayed in the classroom as well. And then there's just that constant communication. So they just, teachers and parents both know exactly what's going on with that student. And then engaging students actively and experientially in the learning process. This is the final approach that he talks about, and it's having students be active in the learning by applying SEL to real life situations. And then as well as integrating community service into the academics, just to show how it all incorporates and comes and works together. So in conclusion, what is social emotional learning? It's, engaging students in coping methods and learning how to deal with their emotions and their behaviors and how to respond and deal with other students' behavior and emotions as well. There's 5 guiding principles, adopting whole child development, commit to equity, build capacity, partner with families and communities, learn and improve schools. And then how can they be effective in schools? Direct instruction, try using the ruler method and instructional approaches. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And these are my references. And thank you for listening to this presentation.